What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Monday. Philadelphia now 13-1. 13 times you've woken up on a Monday victorious if you are an Eagles fan. I want to go ahead and jump into all the stuff that we didn't talk about on the show yesterday. If you missed my instant reaction to the whole, rough matchup against the Bears, not the best game of the year, blah, blah, blah. People are, being overly critical of Philadelphia yesterday. I digress. If you missed that show, go ahead and check it out. I want to jump into an update on Jalen Hurts' health. He was banged up a lot yesterday. Really fun story to go along with this from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Why Dallas Goedert didn't play yesterday. You notice that? Goedert was not activated like I thought he was going to be. I was wrong. I thought for sure Goedert was going to be activated. Could he play Saturday versus the Cowboys? And then we'll get into more about the Dallas Cowboys and the rest of the National Football League on what was a very interesting day just for the playoffs in general. So let's just go and jump into the Inquirer article here. Really good look at what Jalen Hurts did yesterday in terms of getting beat up. I think he got really banged up in that win against the Bears, but he played through the entire game. He kept getting up, and he earned more respect from his teammates, more than he really already had. Here's the Inquirer article. Quote, "He got fight. Jalen Hurts takes a beating and keeps on ticking as the Eagles survive the pesky Bears." Now, there's a really cool story here. Listen to this. Quote, "Late in the third quarter, the Eagles clinging to a 17-13 lead, Jalen Hurts once again pulled the ball from a running back and ran. He probably should have handed it off, and after just a 3-yard gain, got sandwiched in between two Bear defensive linemen. Hurts popped up the frozen tundra at Soldier Field after each of the previous hits he endured, but the quarterback remained on his back several beats longer this time, prompting concern from his teammates and Eagles fans everywhere. That one scared me. He just laid there," Eagles tackle Jordan Mailata said. "I ran over and said, 'Stay down.' And he said, 'Pick me the bleep up.' And I said, 'Yes, sir.' And he goes straight back to the huddle. He's got bleeping fight, man. He's grit. He's everything we want," end quote. And so the good news is obviously that Jalen Hurts, so far as we know, did not get seriously injured at all during the Bears game, but he definitely did get banged up. He definitely got hit a lot harder and a lot more than he has the entire year. One of the big perks of Jalen Hurts' running abilities is that he doesn't take a lot of hard hits. Now, he doesn't slide a lot. He doesn't go out of bounds a lot. He does get tackled, but he doesn't get, mashed or sandwiched or hit in the head or, bent awkward ways really the entire season until yesterday against the Bears. The Bears were probably the one football team that really got a couple of good licks on Jalen Hurts. And the good news that you can see from this article is that even when he's taking a beating, and you could, laying on the ground there for a couple of extra beats, he's, trying to gauge the impact and just kind of get through what he just endured, he still is able to get back up, show that fight, show that grit, and the guys in front of him acknowledge that. They understand it. They feed off of it. They recognize it. And Jordan Mailata saying how tough he is. He's got grit. He's everything that we want. That is exactly what you want in your superstar quarterback, and just further fuels the idea that Jalen Hurts is the NFL MVP. Again, yesterday, for as bad as Philadelphia was at times, they really were going through Jalen Hurts. Hurts had 2 bad possessions, 2 bad interceptions. The offense struggled, and that shows you why he is the MVP of that offense, because, sure, could you put Gardner Minshew in there and win some football games? Yes, but you would have nowhere near the success that Philadelphia has had all around the organization, all around the roster for this football team without Jalen Hurts as your starting quarterback. So as of today, he looks to be okay, which is good news here in terms of an injury. As Nick Sirianni said in his post-game press conference, really his post-game speech to the team, they have to get their bodies right ASAP because we're less than 6 days away now from a very physical matchup against the Dallas Cowboys coming up on Saturday on Christmas Eve. Thumbs up just for Jalen Hurts in general for being a baller, but that was a really tough road game, a very obvious trap game that they endured and won, and really have the inside track now to the NFC East and the number 1 overall seed. Okay, let's go over here to the Dallas Goedert situation. I had mentioned on my show on Saturday, he's probably going to play. He's going to be activated. He's going to play. How much will he play? All those sorts of questions. And then, sure enough, he wasn't activated. And I was wrong. And, of course, I always shoot the show as early as I can almost every single day. That way I can get it out to you guys as you're driving to work or driving home from work or on lunch break, whatever it is. So I was wrong there, but Nick Sirianni was asked about it in his post-game press conference. Quote, here's Jeff McClain, Eagles coach Nick Sirianni on tight end Dallas Goedert. Shoulder not being activated for the Bears game. He's getting there. We'll see. He wasn't quite ready yet. When he's ready, he'll go. So what do we deduce from that, right? Not a lot in terms of he's going to play on Saturday. I think this does mean that they felt confident they didn't need Dallas Goedert on Sunday. It turns out they didn't. They won the football game. And if they could give him 1 extra week of recovery, 1 more extra week of rest, it's just better off overall for the long-term health and really the long-term durability of the rest of the season. We still have 3 games left in the regular season. We forget that. If you beat Dallas on Saturday, you lock up the 1 seed and you go ahead and lock up the NFC East, essentially, you still have 2 games after that, right? And so the idea of rushing him back against the Chicago Bears, a team that with only 3 wins in the entire season, was a little bit far-fetched in my own opinion, as I was wrong on that one, and I think it's a good indicator he probably will give it a go on Saturday against the Dallas Cowboys. The question is, Will Dallas be, 100%? Will he be 85%, 90%? I'm not sure, but we'll keep an eye on that this week. This is an ongoing story here, especially if we have an update. I'm sure we get that to you guys as quickly as I can. Speaking of which, we're going to get into Eagles and Cowboys here in just 1 second. I'm going to have RJ Ochoa, the managing editor of bloggingtheboys.com, one of the biggest Dallas Cowboy websites, on the show Wednesday to go ahead and break down Eagles Cowboys, so subscribe and stay tuned for that one. Speaking of that game, really quickly here before we get into the NFL national story of the day, the Eagles are still underdogs. This is crazy. And you see here from Bleeding Green Nation, quote, the Philadelphia Eagles are 1.5-point road underdogs ahead of their Week 16 game against the Dallas Cowboys, according to DraftKings Sportsbook. NFC East rivalry matchup suddenly has a lot less juice following the results of Week 15. Eagles beating the Chicago Bears and the Cowboys losing the Jacksonville Jaguars in painful, humiliating fashion. The Bears don't need to win this tilt by any means. And they go on to say that even if the Eagles can't beat the Cowboys, still clinch the number 1 seed, and the NFC East playoff picture by beating the New Orleans Saints at home in Week 17, or the New York Giants at home in Week 18. So really, you got to win one of the next 3, which is crazy overall. But that's not the point. The point is the fact that Philadelphia is still an underdog. They were a 1-point underdog 2 weeks ago. They're a 1.5-point underdog, despite the fact that Dallas blew a 17-point lead, had a pick 6 in overtime. Dak Prescott looked terrible yet again to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are playing well. Credit. Hey, Dougie P. We love some Dougie P on this show. Doug Peterson winning for Philadelphia once again. But the fact that Philadelphia is an underdog is absolutely ridiculous and should only be more fuel to the fire for hopefully Philadelphia and for you getting ready for Dallas Hate Week. All right, let's go ahead and go to our NFL national story of the day. We go to the NFL scoreboard here on a Monday. Yes, you still have Rams-Packers happening later on tonight. Packers technically still have a playoff route if they can win out, but that's a little bit more far-fetched. Let's go through some of these other games that have some serious impact for not only Philadelphia, but the rest of the NFL in general. This is the biggest bummer, I think, in terms of the weekend. The Colts could not hold on to a 33-point lead. The Vikings come all the way back. Now, maybe you spin it to be a good thing because Minnesota, they look terrible. They're down 33. They come all the way back, and everyone's praying, oh, the Vikings look great now. The Vikings have serious problems. I would love to play the Vikings right now over the Dallas Cowboys and over the 49ers in the playoffs, right? If you had to pick between those 3 teams, who do you want to play? Give me the Vikings all day long because I do not trust Kirk Cousins. He was terrible until he wasn't there in the fourth quarter, and they scored 22 straight to go ahead and get tied, and then 3 in overtime to win it. Ravens-Browns was a basic snooze fest in terms of the game, and didn't really matter in terms of, NFC playoff standings, but it does matter for the Bengals, who are now the 3 seed in the AFC because they overtake the Ravens in their division. Baltimore, I know that Lamar Jackson's out, but that defense is not as good as it should have been. A lot of credit to the Miami Dolphins for beating the Bills. I think Miami is a very scary team right now in the AFC. If you are the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, any of these teams that are going to host a playoff game, you don't want to play the Dolphins. Now, the 4th seed will host a playoff game. That could be the Jaguars or the Titans, but I can see the Dolphins winning in the first round, and then going to Kansas City, or going to Buffalo, or going to the Bengals, and being a very tough out there. Tua's gotten a lot of criticism, and Tua is very similar, I think, to Jalen Hurts. I've always called the Dolphins the AFC version of the Philadelphia Eagles because of the Mike McDaniel's criticism whenever he got hired, being kind of dorky. Same thing was said about Nick Sirianni. Tua and Jalen Hurts very much cut from the same thread. Can they throw? Are they accurate? Can they win you football games? I like the Dolphins. I root for the Dolphins. I think they showed a lot of grit in what was a very, very good football game when they should have won there. But Buffalo, there's a little bit too much magic there as the snow started to fall down in the fourth quarter. Both teams are great. I think Miami is going to be that scary team you do not want to play in the AFC playoffs. Falcons Saints, this was a huge bummer as well. Atlanta starting Desmond Ridder for the first time. Tyler Algier, their rookie running back, was a baller, 139 on the ground. But Hurts the Eagles draft pick, right? That's why you root against the Saints, because you want the Eagles draft pick to get even better, and I got a little worse yesterday with the Saints beating the Falcons. I think Detroit is the other football team. Talk about the Dolphins. You don't want to play them in the AFC playoffs. You don't want to play Detroit in the NFC playoffs. And right now, Detroit is, a half game out of the 7th seed? They're right there behind the Giants to go ahead and squeeze in as the 7th seed, or I should say the Washington Commanders. Both those football teams we'll talk about the game last night. But the Lions are a team that they have no fear. They have a ton of talent offensively, and if they can just get enough stops, as they did yesterday, defensively, they are a serious threat. Now, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. They're not going to win 2 playoff games. But if they, go to the 49ers, they go to the Vikings, depending on where they're at, you got to figure that's a very scary, tough matchup for whatever team plays them. Now, Philadelphia, they've already played them early on in the year, but it could be a divisional round matchup because if Detroit's the 7th seed, they would then go ahead and play the 2 seed. If they upset the 2 seed, they would go to Philadelphia in the divisional round. So we're not going to say the Lions are elite or great or going to, blow the socks off people, but they are a pesky football team you would not want to play in a playoff situation, and they're marching their way towards the playoffs. Panthers, Steelers, again, this is a nothing burger. This was on Red Zone because I had, the Eagles and Red Zone going at the same time. They barely showed this game because no one cares about these two football teams. This is, again, Jaguars, Cowboys here. This is more, I think, good Jaguars than it is bad Cowboys. I know that I ripped the Cowboys a bunch. Dak wasn't awful in this game. He had two really bad throws, and the overtime interception wasn't one. The overtime interception was right onto the Cowboy receiver's hands. He misses it, gets popped up in the air, pick six. That's not Dak's fault. Dak's fault was the other interception and a couple of other bad throws there. The Cowboys just feel like what the Cowboys always do. They get this football team that is really good. It's a good football team. They could win Saturday against Philadelphia. It's very possible. It could happen. But it's just not good enough to win a Super Bowl. But the national media and Cowboy fans, ad nauseum, because the most obnoxious people in the entire world always bloviate and say the Cowboys are a Super Bowl team. And so our minds think they need to be a Super Bowl caliber team to my eyes. Then when our eyes watch and they're not a Super Bowl caliber team, we all start to panic and go, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the Cowboys? You watch ESPN all day today. That's all that they're talking about. What's happened to the Cowboys? Nothing. This is who the Cowboys are. This is who they have been for years and years and years. It's a football team that is good. It's never bad. It's always mediocre, but we think it needs to be elite for some reason, and Dak Prescott and the rest of the Cowboys are just not that. Dak's not terrible. You can win 10 games with Dak Prescott. They've done that. They're probably going to win 12 games with Dak Prescott this year, but he's just not on the level of a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow or a Jalen Hurts when everyone wants to claim him to be each and every year. Side note, Jaguars, they're scary right now. They could win that division because Tennessee, as we'll see, is really falling behind. Jacksonville and Doug Peterson are going to be really, really good the next couple of years, even if they don't make the playoffs or lose in the first round this year. Chiefs, Texans, the Chiefs are vulnerable, guys. I know that the Super Bowl matchup is so far ahead. The Chiefs are vulnerable. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to make it. No Tyreek Hill has been a serious, let's just call it flaw in this offense. Yes, they scored 30, but they struggle at times. And Mahomes is great, but they don't have that one elite receiver you have to, wet your pants thinking about the night before. And so the Chiefs, again, much like the rest of the football teams, not named the Philadelphia Eagles, have some serious flaws. They've had some bad games, and I think that the Eagles would match up very well with them in a Super Bowl situation. I'm not talking about this game. Even mentioning it is disrespectful because it was an absolute... we're talking about Brett Rippon and Trace McSorley played in this game. Goodness gracious. Okay, the whole Patriot Raider debacle yesterday is it's hard to break down. First off, I thought the Raider guy was out of bounds for the touchdown catch. It very clearly to me looks like he was out of bounds. And if that was Philadelphia happening against us, I'd be really ticked off on a Monday morning. The Patriots, though, come on. Jacoby Myers, he panics, right? It's just a panic play. He looks back. He's going to lateral it back because he already had the ball lateral to him. He makes a bad decision. They're going to rip him for this, but it's not a big deal. It's not like New England's a good football team anyway. They're a mediocre football team. Not like, they had a devastating loss, and now they're going to miss out on playoffs, and they can't go to the Super Bowl. They're probably going to miss out on playoffs anyway, and they probably weren't going to go to the Super Bowl at all, so not a big deal. Here's your Titans again, really. After Philadelphia dismantled them, the Jaguars dismantled them, the Chargers held them to 14 points yesterday. Can we say the Titans are very similar to the Dallas Cowboys? Is that a fair comparison? They have a above average but slightly mediocre quarterback. They have a really good running game, and they have a decent defense, but that's about it. And every single year, you kind of look at the Titans, you go, oh man, Tennessee, Derrick Henry, very scary. And then they get to the playoffs and they lay an egg against Joe Burrow, or during the regular season, they just struggle mightily and don't look very good. It's very similar to the Dallas Cowboys each and every year. They just don't get anywhere near the height that Dak and the Dallas Cowboys do. The Bucs are horrible, but the Bucs are still going to host a playoff game. They're still going to host a playoff game, and it wouldn't shock me if Tom Brady finds a way to play Dallas, who will be a 5 seed, and beat them, right? Everyone's going to say it's a great matchup for the Dallas Cowboys, and it is, but the one thing the Bucs do very, very well is they can stop the run, and they get a little opportunistic with that defense. They have their spurts and moments with that defense. It's not the best matchup in terms of playing the Dallas Cowboys, but that's going to be your wild card round, and they will host a playoff game probably sitting there at like 8-9, which is nuts. Giants and Commanders, they are who we thought they were, right? Both teams, mediocre, very mediocre. Yes, the Commanders have, nice talent on defense, and yes, they get the best and better of Philadelphia 1 week, but overall, both of these teams lack weapons, both of these teams lack really good quarterback play, and both of these teams are basically what you think they are, very, very average. Now, they're probably both going to be playoff teams unless the Lions squeak in, but both of them are going to be one and done in the postseason. I don't see Taylor Heineke going on the road and winning. I don't see Daniel Jones going on the road and winning as well. Side note here as we end, I needed 13 points for Terry McLaurin to win my fantasy football playoff first round matchup, and he gave me 6. So I lost yesterday in the first round as the 1 seed, but that's neither here nor there. All right, a lot of ranting, a lot of stuff in terms of the NFL scoreboard. Plenty more stuff coming up this week for Philadelphia. I'll keep you guys up to date on both Philadelphia and the NFL. We do a lot of different stuff here. I'm on the road, so bear with me on where all the settings are going to be, but it's going to be a really fun week heading into the Cowboy game, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe. See you guys in the next one.